Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag-and-drop Fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way.
When you're running out of luck, need to get unstuck, so go off. When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go off, go off, go off, go off. So go off, go off, go off, go off.
I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Pitch Perfect 3 is over. They've graduated college, spread their wings, and are attempting to fly, hopefully not becoming the failures we expect them to be.
You guys, every year the USO puts on this performance to support the troops in Europe. What if I could get us an invite?
Yeah, I've suddenly got a bunch of free time, so hell yeah!
Here we go, it's my turn to make history.
Guys, we've never competed against bands that actually have instruments, so what's the plan?
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started. I'm coming out.
Aww, you guys just sing other people's songs, like karaoke.
Karaoke? No.
That's so cute.
I'm Calamity, this is Serenity, Veracity, and Charity.
If I joined your group, I could be obesity.
Here we go. When I'm down, they'll remember me.
Another day on stage for the Bellas. This is their big plummet
Their fade out.
into nothingness.
You sure about this?
Have I ever let you down?
All the time.
What?
You're very unreliable. It's like one of the hallmarks of your personality.
Are you not remembering all the times I've been awesome?
Let Taka finish this.
I love you, awesome nerds!
Try to have some dignity.
Yeah, well, we don't do anything with dignity, okay?
They really do need to join the workforce.
Yes.
Andy, it's Pitch Perfect 3. We're wrapping up our big franchise, Pitch Perfect. As you know, I came in hard on Pitch Perfect.
Yes.
Just unironic love for that movie. I really, really enjoy it. Pitch Perfect 2 was a little bit rough around the edges. You had not seen 2 or 3 when we started this trilogy, and I'm here to ask you, Andy, what did you think of Pitch Perfect 3? Can you tell me how it hit you? Just gut check.
They were doing something new with it. And that's, in our member pre-show chat that we had last week about sequels, the idea of doing something new, bringing something, changing the story up to kind of take it in a new direction. So you're just not rehashing what you had already done and what already you succeeded with, is an important step. And to that end, at least they were doing that with this. They were figuring out what can we do that shakes things up a little bit. It's not perfect. It's not pitch perfect. It's not great. I have a lot of issues with it. And we'll certainly talk about that. I think there is a little, I think I would say I like it a little bit better than the second one, though. I'm just not exactly sure how much, but
you think it's better than the second one?
Baby bit. And it may be the exact same rating. I don't know, but they are walking a line, and we'll talk about it. So that's where I'm sitting right now.
Okay. All right.
So for me, it sounds like this is even lower for you. So it's got kind of a continuous plummet.
It is a continuous plummet. And I think what you're going to hear in my conversation, there are some things that are funny in this thing. There are things that are funny that I like. There are just many fewer than there were in even the second movie. And I think my thoughts on this movie are directly impacted by how much love I have for the first movie. Right. And so I can't escape that. It's so hard to look at this as a trilogy and not feel like it is a rapid decline from greatness. Yeah. And that hurts.
No. And that feels pretty clear. It just keeps going down, down, down.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in. This film was rated PG-13 when it came out for crude and sexual content, language, and some action.
Go off, go off, go off, go off, so go off, go off, go off, go off.
The movie opens with Aka intrigue, Andy. There's a straight up explosion. Did you need the explosion?
I tell you.
I mean, does that level up this whole story? Is that what they needed to make this a Pitch Perfect movie?
Obviously, they were trying something new. And this is, I think, why I appreciate this in some capacity more than the second film. Because at least they were bringing something new to the table. Like, I wasn't expecting it to start with spy intrigue. Like, I had no idea what was going on. And I was kind of surprised that it started this way because I was expecting essentially a repeat of yet again the second and first film, where it was going to start with a performance and there was some big gaffe and like the whole gag that the Bellas could not pull it together anymore. I was expecting that because that's where we had been. So to that end, I was like, oh, okay, they're at least trying something new. You've got my attention. So that's how I started this film. Did I think it was the right choice? Not necessarily, but at least I said, you know what? At least they're doing something different. So I can at least appreciate it for that. And to that end, I think that there is a lot of comparison in my head to something like the Hangover trilogy, because Hangover 2 was a repeat of the first film, which was, for me, just an absolute blast of a comedy. I love the Hangover film fantastic structure, really fun, well crafted, well put together, well performed, very funny. The second film, they just repeated it straight up. The third film, like this film, they said, how can we build some craziness into the story, do a bunch of different intrigue and all this, and really kind of go wild and crazy. And so to that end, these two trilogies really line up in a lot of interesting ways. But and that's not saying I like the second or third films in either trilogy, but in both cases, I feel that at least in the case of the third film, they were saying, let's try to do something a little different to shake things up.
Okay. I would respond to you in the words of Fat Amy. Please hear this in the best way possible. You're a very stupid person. I think that the entire intrigue, John Lithgow daddy issue is so stupid and such a missed opportunity in the story that already exists that it is a shameful addition to this movie. I think it is just ridiculous that there could already be enough movie in the story that they're trying to tell. And where you and I differ, I actually thought that they did such a poor job making good on some of the elements of the first movie that made it great, that in the second movie, that they had so much room to go back and capture some of more of that magic and tell more of that story. They did fix some things by not distancing Becca from the entire group for most of the movie like they did in the second one. But overall, I thought introducing the Fat Amy daddy issue storyline was a travesty. It was just a tragedy in this movie. Her character did not deserve that. There was nothing that set up to it. And we already had the perfect, much more sensitive daddy issue storyline with Aubrey. And I think that it was terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it was great. I'm not saying
you're coming out easy on it. You're saying you kind of liked it.
I'm saying I liked it better than the second one because at least they were trying. Like, I felt like they tried. Did they fail? Yes. But at least they were trying to do something different. And I'll say one of the funniest moments for me in context of daddy issues was when Fat Amy came over to Aubrey as she was looking out the window and said, "Oh, what's wrong? Oh, I just wish my dad was here. I was really hoping that he could make it, and he's not going to make it. I'm so sad." And then Amy looks out the window and is like, "Oh my God, that's my dad. I'm so excited." Like that moment when she like totally lost, the connection with Aubrey there, it just made me laugh so hard. I thought that was a funny bit. That was a funny beat in context of daddy issues. Yes.
I'll give you the beat.
Yeah. I again, the daddy stuff was not great, but they were doing something new. And it sounds like what you would have preferred is going back to the first movie and doing that one again. So you would have preferred the second movie.
No, I don't think so. But I can be more specific about my troubles. I think that the thing that we've seen with how I feel about the movie is directly related to the amount of story they give Rebel Wilson. I think Rebel Wilson was best served in the first movie, and the more they make her a standout character with a standout storyline, the worse the movie performs for me. I can't stand the Fat Amy character in this movie. It is the worst of all three, and it was fine in the first one where we had a taste of her, and now she's a martial arts artist and she knows how to nunchuck a sausage link, and she's like, there's so much stuff in here that goes so far over the top that it no longer seems to owe anything to the tone of the first movie. Like, it's just, the trilogy has just come completely off the rails. It's like it's trying to be a hangover movie, and the first movie was not a hangover movie, and it makes me crazy. So I don't care for that. I think it is that's really what drives some of my angst about this movie. Is I think that is a signal of what they were trying to do. And I know it's a taste issue, and I know there are people who like that character. I like it so little that just in mild doses is fine. I don't believe their friendship. I don't believe their roommate-dom. Like, all the beats between Becca and Fat Amy seem now wholly unbelievable. And then they dressed him in black and put him on a boat in the middle of the night. And I was done.
No, and I agree. Don't think I am not agreeing with you. I have so many issues with this movie, and they made a lot of things just not work. A lot of decisions, a lot of repeat. And what happens, and in context of making a third story that is not just a third story when you could continue it, but a third story that is really a wrap-up story. Because it really, by the end of this one, it feels like we're going to close the chapter on the Bellas and on these characters. This is going to be the end of their story. That they amped all the characters up again. They'd already turned them up to 11 in the second film, and they said, hey, we made even more money on that second film. Let's turn it up to 12 and really go to town with these crazy characters. And so we got a lot of craziness with all the characters, to a point where it was too much with all of them. And I mean, some of them they kind of dropped a lot. Like Cynthia hardly does anything in this film other than just be present, and that happens with a number of the characters, and so they are really amping up. It's Becca and Fat Amy and Aubrey and Chloe and Lily, and so you're still getting some of the core characters, and you're getting more of them, and it's just not necessary. And to a point where I stop liking the characters, period, and I get just so frustrated with them as people that it makes it hard to want to follow their story anymore. And that's, I mean, your point is that there were a lot of people who obviously still like these characters, who want to see these characters, who enjoy them. So clearly it's just maybe we're just not the group for it anymore, and maybe the first film you enjoyed so much because it was really about an a cappella troupe coming together and performing. Now it's just about a bunch of goofy characters who come together, and it's not necessarily a story about the a cappella anymore.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I guess I'm puzzled because I think your statement is accurate. It feels accurate to the movie that they gave us, but it feels like, how could they make a film in this series in which I am not the target audience? Like, I'm an a cappella head, man. Like, I should love this movie. And I felt like they so damaged the story that all I have to hang on is the music. And some of it's okay, but of the three movies, the arrangements are much more chaotic, much busier. And like, you lose melody in the arrangements in a way that you didn't in the first movie and largely in the second. And I do think, so a slight pivot, I do think one of the ways that they leveled up that seems pretty obvious in hindsight, rather than making it an a cappella competition, I think the USO mechanic works, and the fact that they're introducing now that the Bellas have to compete against bands is a really neat mechanic for the movie. And I think there's huge opportunity there to tell a story where this a cappella group has to compete against a very, very big sound. It is unfair from the jump that they would have to share a stage with such big performances and loud performances. How do you make that better? If there is anyone who can do it, it's Deke Sharon, and I never quite felt like, as a music arranger, that Pitch Perfect 3 raised to that level. And that was disappointing. I have to, because I'm making that point now, I want to tie all the way into the big finale. And so I'm skipping a lot of movie, which we'll have to come back to. The big finale performance, right, of Freedom 90 and it was just was it just Freedom 90?
Just do that, yeah.
Yeah. That big finale performance, and John and Gail say, look, it's the big finale. It is like they're picked for their final performance. Bella is picked. It's the final thing, and they make it a swan song. Why would DJ Khaled want to pick any band, any that isn't like, why are they even talking about getting picked for this big thing when they all know they're going in different directions? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you pick a group that has promise and has agreed that they're going to stay together and continue to perform and grow and make money. So that really frustrated me, that whole dynamic at the end. But the fact was, the Freedom 90 performance was bland. It was bland. It was sad, and like, there was no energy to it. It was just the singing. It was very old school. And then the curtain rises and there's a different set of musicians. Like, it stunned me that curtain rose and they didn't actually have the other bands together that were playing with them. That would have been a great way to show like unity in the whole performance. And USO, instead they brought in different musicians and had the bands in the closet or like in the audience. That was so dumb. It was so dumb. And I felt like I felt like the other bands deserved a little bit of better treatment as a way to unify the story at the end. This was a movie that deserved that kind of feeling, and they just flushed it. I was blown away by how sad that finale was.
First off, I really liked their performance of the song. I love the song. I love George Michael. So I was all there for the song itself. Like, I enjoyed the performance.
Yeah.
But you're right about a number of points there. It does feel like they're just singing and it's just going to be a song. Also, the whole point of the end is, hey, we do need to move on with our lives. We can't just have this as the thing that is it for us. And to that end, just as a side point, I thought it was funny that they're calling themselves the Bellas when technically, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how it works in the world of collegiate a cappella, but my sense is at least the Barton Bellas, they're a group made up of Barton students, and they perform while they're in school. Now, there might be the legacies that we met in the last film. And so to that end, I'm like, technically, they're kind of the Bella legacies going out to perform, because the only Bella who's actually here now is Haley Steinfeld's character. And I was like, well, isn't she in school? Shouldn't she, how is she going on this USO tour if she was still, in school? They were just there for this little reunion. I'm like, how did this...
disappears for an entire semester.
I was a little confused by that whole thing. But it was a strange setup for me, because I'm like, technically they're not the Bellas anymore. And why are John and Gail pursuing this particular group of legacies who aren't even Bellas anymore? Like, their whole thing was collegiate a cappella. They should be just following the Barton Bellas as they are right now, led by Haley Steinfeld. So that was a whole thing that I had. But anyway, the performance at the end, the way that it was structured was, okay, they're all moving on with their lives. They're okay with separating the fact that DJ Khaled picked very specifically Becca, not the Bellas, but Becca, to be the one person that he wants to sign and is going to help her build her career. That was great. And actually, when she started singing, I'm like, okay, so now we're shifting the whole thing, and now it's just going to be Becca performing This Is Fine. I'm sure it'll be a great performance. And then all the Bellas came up, and I was just like, well, but didn't he specifically say, I don't want the Bellas, I only want you? So that threw me, because then he was on the sides, cheering and everything. I'm like, you didn't want them to be performing. Why are they up there performing? So then I'm like, okay, so maybe this is just going to be the song where the Bellas all come up and sing. Then they're all going to go sit down, and then Becca will still have one more song. We're going to get another song from her. But no, we didn't get anything. I was like, and then it's just the show wrapped up. I'm like, so is this a one song show? Everybody shows up to hear the one song, and then the whole thing's over.
That's exactly right.
It was structured so strangely.
All filed in for 5 minutes, and then
right. Okay, show's over, folks. So that was a little weird to me, because it feels like you're wrapping the whole thing up at that point. So I enjoyed that. I didn't care so much that the other performers weren't there, because honestly, the film didn't seem to care that they were ever there. We never get a solid song out of any of them. We get montages of them performing. It's not like the Das Sound Machine from the last film, where you get to watch solid, performances of them singing. I don't think, except maybe Evermoist, we actually get a performance from, a full performance. The other two groups, I think it's always just montage or little bits here or there. And so to that end, it's the film didn't care that there were other performers there, and it was just saving up these moments for when the Bellas were involved. And so, I don't know, it was a sloppy structure that didn't seem to care about the fact that it was about performances.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. And I think you made a point, and then I was going to come back to it. Oh, it was on the whole idea that DJ Khaled picked just Becca. That was the twist. But leading up to that, the entire foundation of all the Bellas conversations about how great it'll be to be picked is that this is also their swan song. So wouldn't it be great if this world-famous DJ picked them for their final performance? And that's the part that they so firmly believed, that DJ Khaled would pick them when this was going to be their admittedly final performance as a group together was crazy to me. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they even be there? They were only there because Aubrey's dad got him a spot. The match was really up for the other bands, for Young Sparrow and DJ Dragon Nuts, Evermoist, and Saddle Up. And that was where the competition was. The fact that they didn't find a way to unify all four bands and make the Bellas really shine is everything else just felt shoveled into the story. It just did not feel earned. Nothing felt earned.
No.
So, okay. So I want to talk about some musical notes as we start moving through the film. Sit Still Look Pretty is the first one where the girls were the old Bellas were invited by the current Bellas to watch the performance, not to sing. That actually felt legit to me because alumni shows can be very confusing. What the expectation is, are you going to get up and sing or not? And it is a very real thing to go back to an alumni show as an alum and be invited spontaneously up to sing one of the old songs. So that the girls would show up at this event and expect to sing makes total sense to me. And it was cringy. And that was like just right. Like, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that would hit you because, you didn't sing. Did that feel earned to you?
That felt great to me. What felt artificial and just completely ham-fisted the way it was performed and put together was the completely overt, how would I define the reaction by the Bellas? Like, oh yeah, no, totally, yeah, we totally weren't planning to sing. Like they were, the way they were feigning their responses felt so written. Like it didn't feel like.
Uh-huh.
Like, why can't you still, oh, that's great. No, it's totally fine. Like, they can still sound like, I'm totally fine. Like, basically, none of them have any sort of poker face in the way that they talk to somebody and express, like, I'm going to hide my disappointment because I'm still happy for you. Mm-hmm. Like, they all acted like such babies in that scene. Like, seriously, grow up. It was a little ridiculous the way that the characters were treated. Like, I have nothing in my life except to sing. It was
written like a sitcom.
Well, and then you have this moment where they're all like, with Emily when she's just like, well, you all, I didn't think because you all have you're so happy with all your jobs. And then you have this montage flash to all of them thinking about like their lives in their careers. And it all looks miserable. Like you get Becca having to deal with Pimplo, the ridiculous rap star that she's trying to produce.
I thought that was a funny scene too, by the way. I did like that scene.
Okay. But you have like, Fat Amy doing the Fat Amy Winehouse performance. You have Flo struggling and seeming miserable at her little coffee stand that she's working at. You have Chloe having to, I don't know what she's doing a gynecological check on a cow. You have Aubrey dealing with people at her camp. So you get this like flash montage of how miserable all of them are in their jobs. Setting like, okay, we're setting it up for, okay, they're miserable. They have nothing but singing. Like all of that was just incredibly frustrating. And, a little obvious, like, in the way that they portrayed it. And that leads to this sense of them being disappointed. Again, they should hide that better. But then my real issue with that is when we get to the end of the film and they're talking to Becca about her opportunity to go solo with DJ Khaled, is that now all of them start talking about it and they all talk about how amazing their opportunities are, how Flo just got this thing to franchise, like the seed funding for franchising, and Chloe just got accepted into vet school, and Fat Amy has this $180 million to go do her thing. Yeah, and Aubrey's decided she's going to go do stuff with her dad, and Cynthia's going to go actually join the Air Force and train. Like all of them, like it's like this 180-degree completely written shift in what we saw at the beginning, from misery to, no, I really love that job and I don't want to sing anyway. It's like, what, like this story did not know what to do, how to put these characters together. It's just like clearly written to force them into this USO tour. So anyway, that was my whole thing there. So anyway, that was your response to your question about that first performance.
Okay,
second performance after Toxic,
musically. Yeah, Toxic, but we're going to come back to that. Musically, the arrangement was chaos. By the end of that thing, you have no idea what's going on anywhere. It's just like, and I didn't know if they were trying to arrange it as if it were like the convention performance that the Bellas did to the old people in the last one, where it was just completely haywire. Like, what were they trying to say with that performance? Because musically, it was off the reservation. I was not good.
The second song you're talking about.
Yes, it still looked pretty. The Dia song.
I didn't like the song. I didn't like the performance.
Yeah, all of it was, the arrangement, everything was bad. So we have two switch ups from the last movie. So in this movie, Aubrey is back as a main cast member. Somehow she's now a full.
Well, because this is a group of legacies. They're not even Bellas anymore.
Right. Right. She's back. And Stacy is written out of the film, in the film, with the words literally, okay, Stacy's out. And then Stacy goes and has a baby. She's 8 months pregnant and nobody noticed. That was like, I didn't, like, okay, why is she there? Like, just take her out. She was a bit of great comedy in the first movie. I thought she was a really fun character. In the second movie, she was very poorly used, like, just not used really very much at all, and now she's out of the movie. Why did that happen? I felt like something went awry, that we get Aubrey back and we lose Stacy, and that just didn't play for me.
It didn't bug me. It's like, they're doing what they can with these movies to try keeping these characters in them in some capacity. Yeah. So to that end, it's like no different than trying to keep Aubrey in the last film. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with the crazy sexed up character? Oh, now she's actually having a baby, because it's all of her sex is finally cut up to her. I didn't really care. It was fine. I never really cared about her character that much anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, see, I guess I liked her more, and I thought that was better. It was disappointing. It was another one like where we lose the Skylar Astin and Ben Platt completely, because the trebles are no longer in this thing, and that feels much more authentic to the path. Like, they're going on this USO tour, the trebles are not there. And maybe it's because Bumper was gone and they eventually had the slow decline and they're no longer relevant at Barden. But we had no issues with the trebles.
Well, but again, they would have been legacy performers. So to that end, why couldn't this have been a co-ed group where they were all performing together? Why does it still have to be the Barton Bellas? Like, that would have actually been a different shift of like, let's shake things up a little bit for this story. Now they're post-collegiate. Now they're forming their own a cappella group to do something else. Like, that could have actually been a shift in the story.
Oh my God, Andy, that is a brilliant idea, because frankly, you get such a different opportunity for the music. Like, the arranger has more opportunity with a co-ed group. There's no doubt about it. And I think that could have been really, really fun. So anyway, that wasn't the message that the movie was trying to send. I get it.
No. I'm just saying.
Yeah. A little note, Lily's place of birth on her passport when they do the very quick flashes, Area 51, Nevada. I thought that was funny.
It was funny in context of that character.
I do know that they know what to do with her character. They never really do.
They clearly don't, because all of a sudden...
By the time the end, and she says Satan has left her body and her name is actually Esther, was like, what are you doing right now, movie?
Yeah. I was a little... that whole thing... I mean, it made me laugh, because I'm like, oh, okay, so this is what they're doing with this character. But at the same time, I'm just like, I just don't know. Yeah. Like, they're just taking it to such an extreme, and I just don't know.
There were some funny physical gags, and one of them I thought that might set up a TVTropes.com segment is the predictable important information given over a loud sound in the background, right? When the soldiers are telling them all this important information that might save their lives, but there's a jet engine going in the background. That was super tropey, and I didn't know if that was called anything. Have you done any of your patented Andy Nelson TVTropes.com search?
Well, I mean, I certainly have. I don't. I mean, that was purely though designed as a gag, because none of that information was actually important. It actually, the way that he plays that in the scene made me think they purposefully had their friend crank the jet engine up right when he was talking, right, just to play that whole thing about
it was
it's very important you do this or you will die. Yeah. So to that end, I don't know. But I mean, there certainly are exposition jokes throughout in the film. Like, we do have other ones. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if, I'm trying to find if there's something about that in the tropes. I don't see anything about that from Chicago. Let me see if Chicago, I don't see any tropes involving Chicago, at least when I search for them. So Doesn't mean they're not listed somewhere in some other capacity, but I'm not finding them.
Okay. Do you have any others that you'd like to use this as a platform to jump into?
Well, yes. In the context of Chekhov and everything, that certainly is something that we've looked at in this film, right? And so,
like Chekhov's Sir Bounce-A-Lot, that was one that I used, but it didn't end up being useful at all. I just kept coming back to it.
Chekhov. Well, I don't know if there are any, like, as I go through the TV tropes, I don't know if there are any particular Chekhov tropes that have really repeated, or at least are listed as being repeated. Frustratingly, their website lumps all three films into kind of one thing. And so I don't know if there's any particular thing, like the things that they have where it relates to like the USO, like there's this trope called the "Dude, Where's My Respect" trope. The MC during the first USO show in the third film describes the Bellas as an a cappella group with a few YouTube clicks, but this group has at least 3 consecutive national championships and a world championship under their belts. So that's one of the tropes that they have. And then another trope is sequel goes foreign. And that's certainly, we haven't talked about that whole thing, but in the first film, despite the name, the International Championship of Collegiate a cappella takes place in the United States with mostly American groups. Pitch Perfect 2, they do the World Championships, and then the third film, they do the USO Tour. So that certainly is something that's going on here.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of the tropes that do pop up in this third film. I'm sure I could find something else, if I really dug around. Birds of a Feather. There's a trope. Lily gets together with one of the male musicians who is also an oddball.
Yeah, that was...
actually, Chekhov's gun in this one, the beehive.
Oh, you're right. The beehive. Now, so that sequence, we'll skip ahead a little bit. That's in DJ Khaled's suite, and there's a big party, and they go in, and there is just a bunch of chaos. We end up with this Rube Goldberg machine of chaos. A fire starts, and people start falling over. They break stuff. They break the table. They knock over the beehive. Bees are flying everywhere. Meanwhile, Becca is in Khaled's bedroom on the computer, laying down a righteous beat. I actually liked this sequence of chaos, although it felt particularly hangover-ish. But one of the things that I think it gets right is just amping up the accident-prone nature of an event like this. And Trish Sie she hasn't done a bunch, but she has done several OK Go videos. And OK Go videos, music videos, are ripe for these kind of mechanical Rube Goldberg machines, and they're awesome. And I kind of thought that was a neat addition to this movie that felt like a directorial stamp on this thing. That was like, okay, this is a thing I do, and I just want to put something in here that looks like one thing starts another thing, starts another thing, starts another thing for comedy, and let's see how it works. So I thought that was fine and funny, and I didn't hate it.
It wasn't built very interestingly, weirdly, like,
right? Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, if you want, like, OK Go videos, they have such a kind of a Rube Goldberg feel as to kind of this structure in some capacity. I mean, and some of them are just movement, choreographed movement, like on the treadmills, things like that. This film, like, it felt like any other comedy where, one thing happens that leads to another, that leads to another, that leads to another. It didn't feel like they took an opportunity to really Rube Goldberg it or do something that felt more choreographed. Like when Emily picks up the guitar and like swings it around, I'm like, somebody
hit
ducks.
Something.
Yeah, somebody ducks and then she throws it out the window, and it was just kind of a thud. And I'm like, well, okay, but so, like, where, like, I wanted something to feel like we're going to get to the bees, and it just kind of felt like, oh yeah, and then somebody trips and the bees get knocked over. It just like nothing.
It definitely was accidental, not mechanical, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was just
Okay. So anyway, that was a trope. You had brought up the idea of Stacy, and I just found as I was looking through this, they actually have a trope called demoted to extra, and they have Stacy listed as the person in that trope where, you take a character who is a bigger part, and then they end up getting pretty much written out as the nothing character.
Yeah, sure. That's fascinating. We do have, thank goodness, he says, not wiping his brow. We do have another Fat Amy fat joke when they're preparing for the riff off, and they're doing, Charity and whatever, the listing off the Evermoist fan names. She says, I could be obesity. So cringeworthy. Like, I'm just done with that kind of humor. It was a funny little bit that showed some character, a bit of depth to the character in the first movie. And in this movie, it was just a joke.
It just ends up, they push it too far. But again, that's the nature of what they decided to do with these characters. Let's crank it up to 12 and we'll go even farther than when we went in the last film. And it's just, it was just terrible.
Oh, and the Make America Eat Again hat. Oh, my God. I talk about a dated joke. That's not going to age well. So can we talk about love stories? Because there's a little bit of an interesting twist, I guess, is that they give Chloe more of a love story than we've ever had for her. And Becca's is weird with like British Adam Scott. Like, I didn't care for that. What did you think of the love story, like the romance?
Well, I mean, Chloe's love story is more like a lust story. Like, there's never any sign from Chicago that he's into it too.
Yeah.
It feels very much just like Chloe. Every time they're together, she's just like gone all goo-goo-eyed and just staring at him and like, I can't stop. And she's not hearing what he's saying and all this sort of stuff. Like, it just plays like that. There's never any build to it. And then at the end, they're making out. I'm like, all right, whatever. It was inevitable because she keeps looking at him that way. And he just is smiling and just seems oblivious. The one with Becca, I mean, I enjoyed it more because it didn't feel like it felt like they were saying, okay, we don't want it to necessarily just end on another straight up romance. What can we do that might be a little different? And so to that, I'm like, okay, so it's fine. The guy was fine. I mean, I didn't love him. I'm not sure if I had seen him before. I don't know. I mean, he was an interesting performer, Guy Burnett, that I don't know. Like, what would I have seen him in? Nothing. I've not seen him in anything. So I missed.
Well, he's in Oppenheimer coming up. That's interesting. I know you would have
missed the Jacob's Ladder remake.
Andy, Mordecai. Like, you watched that like 15 times. How did you not see him in that?
The Mordecai Minute, baby.
Mordecai.
No, so I don't know. I mean, he was fine. It didn't wow me or anything. And to that end, at least they didn't feel like they needed to shoehorn the relationship into it too. So to that end, I'm like, okay, at least they're shifting it and trying to find a way. Like, there were like the moment at the end. This is another trope in some capacity where you have the credits start and then you have random closure scenes that are just going to kind of play over the credits.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap a few little things up. Like, you have Aubrey's dad shows up, and you have the kissing. That's when Chicago and Chloe kiss, and Esther introduces herself as Esther to the guy from that other band, and of course John and Gail get their little final bit, which actually was the best of them in the entire film, was that last moment.
Yeah. Right.
But so and then you get Becca and Theo, and it was fine. Like, because essentially that's how I felt it worked. Like, okay, I'm your boss now. Cool. All right. Well, we'll talk later. And that was it. Like, they didn't have to shoehorn it into a romance. And to that end, I was grateful that they didn't, because it didn't feel like there was necessarily one there, and it would have felt forced if they had.
I did like that last moment with them. I'm your boss now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a real handful. That was cute. That was really cute.
Yeah.
So,
which is funny because essentially she is now the pimp low and he is now her.
The Becca.
And she's telling him, I'm going to be pimp low for you. And you're going to have to. So that was interesting. Like, because, I mean, it's all in the perspective. So I thought that was actually an interesting moment for her. Yeah.
Okay. Can we talk just a little bit more about the music? I'm curious your take on the music and the riff off in particular.
Yeah, we've got music, we've got dad, we've got there are a few other things that we definitely more. I want to touch on John and Gail a bit. Actually, I don't know if I need to. I feel like I said everything I want to say about them. Like, they were trash except for that last bit. What a waste of forced thing to shoehorn them into this thing. Anyway, music.
So I thought in general the song selections were strong. I liked them. I liked them a lot. I thought the riff off was interesting, and I'm curious your thought on how they integrated the band stuff with the acapella.
I mean, it was fine. Again, to my point earlier, like the bands never felt necessary. They felt just as an element to throw in here and there. You hardly got any full songs out of any of them, just little bits and pieces.
Yep.
The riff off was kind of fun. I liked that. I guess mainly just because I like the riff offs. Like I like the way that they're doing that with the songs. The fact that the Bellas seemed so clueless as to how to actually like talk to the bands, like drove me nuts. Like, what are they doing? Well, they're why they can't play their instruments. Get a clue. You're forcing this a cappella thing onto them. You know, they're a different thing. Like it just drove me nuts the way that they were acting about
guitar,
all of it.
Man. Yeah, that's
like,
right. And then when John and Gail are in the background saying, here's the problem. The Bellas are not as good as the other bands. Like, that's a startling insight. Well, not really. Like, the other bands are collaborating and making music, which is the spirit of the music. And the Bellas just don't get it. And I felt like that was where things started going awry for me that could have been rectified in a really positive way in the finale. Like when the Bellas actually learn something as a unit, they learn that making music is a collaborative experience, not just inside the band, but they could have had fun with the other bands and they could have done something really spectacular. It was just a huge missed opportunity and a whiff for a finale. So I thought that was crazy. But the music itself, like, that they start with, I mean, they've got the Call Me and Love Me Harder. And then the Green Bay Packers, the part of the Green Bay Packers played by the military office soldiers, right? If I was a boy, right? Singing the Beyonce tune. I thought that was really funny. And I actually liked that callback to the Packers joke. So,
yeah.
They didn't really follow their own rules. I didn't quite get how they were trying to tie these together. And it didn't make as much sense to me musically.
No, and again, I think a lot of it was just, exacerbated by this whole issue that the Bellas had of like, you have to follow the rules. It's like, just have fun.
Yeah.
Allow for a scene of fun. And this is the thing that also drove me nuts with this, where they're forcing this to be this competition. And Chloe's like, well, there's always got to be a competition. And I'm like, well, that's the screenwriter saying that we have to have a challenge in here to make these characters really, work towards something. Otherwise, they're just traveling the world and singing. Yeah. And it takes all of that out.
There has to be a competition.
Yeah. So you get that in there, and then that feels so shoehorned. And then that was something else that drove me nuts, is like, I thought the Bellas were performing fine. And maybe this is from an outsider's point of view, but like when they were performing on stage, they seemed fine. But everybody, all the other bands, and DJ Khaled was never listening to them. Everyone was like ignoring them. And then they said, oh, well, let's forget about the competition and let's just have fun. That's what we're missing. And so then they start essentially doing the exact same thing, singing well on stage. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like loving them, and Khaled is listening and everything, and the other bands are getting jealous. I'm like, what? They're just doing the exact same thing. Like it felt so written to say, okay, we're having a hard time, nobody likes us. We're having fun, everybody loves us. But then they're performing always the same, and so it just like to that end, it's like it was very frustrating because it just felt it all just felt so written.
Yeah. It did. One note on Evermoist, which I think is, it's just important because it ties together yet another fandom for Pete. Do you know where I'm going with this?
No.
Did you pick this up? This is one of my favorite things in the world. Andy Allo is in the band Evermoist, right? The fake band. And Andy Allo is, she's in one of, I think, a great show on Amazon Prime, Upload. She's fantastic. She's from Cameroon, Cameroonian. She's Cameroonian American, and she's been in a number of films. She's also a straight up awesome musician. And I can tell you she's awesome because she used to be in Prince's band, The New Power Generation, and toured with him. And he had some extraordinary things to say about her talent. And So I tie this back to your point that the movie didn't really care about the other bands. There were a lot of talented musicians besides Andy Allo in these bands, and besides the riff off, they were ignored. And I felt like that was a huge miss, huge miss, because they could have really showed off some amazing talent. She is a superlative guitarist.
Am I wrong? Ever Moist, we see them, do they sing a full song, or do we come in on them like partway through the song and they wrap it up? I was trying to remember like if we actually see any full performance.
I think they start with How a Heart Unbreaks, and I don't think we finish the song. I think it gets interrupted. But you're right. I don't think we get a full song, except we get to see them kind of showcase how casually they can pick up music in the riff off and start integrating this mashup, which sounds perfect from the jump. And that's, it's fine. But you're right. Like because they weren't a cappella, and this is ostensibly an a cappella series, I feel like the movie said, okay, we're gonna kind of shove the bands aside. The bands are the antagonists, and so we need to not show too much of them, unlike the trebles in the first movie where we got a lot of them because they were the competition and they were a cappella, and let's celebrate all a cappella. And I just don't think we had enough attention on the music in this movie as should have.
Yeah, they clearly seemed to not like the bands.
Yeah. Ruby Rose fronted Evermoist. She's been in a bunch. She was in The Meg. She's in all the DC TV stuff as Batwoman. She was in John Wick Chapter 2, Return of Xander Cage, Triple X, and Orange is the New Black. I very much like Ruby Rose. She's kind of a mercurial performer. I'm never quite sure what to make of her, but I like her here. I think she makes a great, speaking of the bands as the antagonists, she's great at that, like exuding the I don't like you vibe. I thought that was really fun.
I really enjoyed her throughout the film.
Again, a miss.
Poorly used.
Yeah, really poorly used.
I just, so Trish Sie, we talked about her briefly. She directed this. Kay Cannon came up with the story. Then she wrote this, and it looks like Mike White was actually brought in to work on the script as well. So it's not a strictly Kay Cannon script. I really still struggle with Kay Cannon and find that, I don't know. As a writer, I know she's done some great TV in the past. Unfortunately, I'm finding as I watch this series that after the first film, she had a good, strong concept there based on the book. And for these next two, she just was all over the place and really, I think, probably, let Elizabeth Banks guide her, because I think Elizabeth Banks has some comedy direction in her storytelling style that she really enjoys that just doesn't work for me. Mike White also, I think Mike White has done some interesting things, and actually having Mike White to come on board to add some elements to this, I thought was actually interesting, but I don't feel anything from him in the film. And so it's weird that he was on this, because I don't get it,
God, that's really true. Like the Mike White films that I know, like Nacho Libre, I liked. I thought it was weird, sort of absurdist wrestling comedy, but I liked it. And what else? School of Rock. He did School of Rock. So he's the Jack Black guy.
Yeah, I always think of him like in the early, the aughts, like Chuck and Buck, The Good Girl, and then into School of Rock. Like I think of him as kind of like really quirky characters, but does some interesting things with them that I find work. And at least in stuff like Chuck and Buck and The Good Girl and School of Rock for sure. And, I don't know. I feel like now he's largely turned into somebody that just is writing. I heard Beatrice at Dinner was amazing. I heard that was a great film. I just didn't get a chance to see it. But then he does like the Emoji Movie.
Yeah,
the One and Only Ivan was okay. It was fine. It was just a biopic with a gorilla,
Oh, I was talking about the Emoji Movie. I actually thought Ivan was fine. The whole family liked it. The Emoji Movie was rough.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, Brad's Status, Year
of the Dog,
heard was okay. So he's done interesting things, but I feel like he's a guy who also just jumps on jobs with Hollywood to make the money, maybe to write the Beatrice at Dinner sorts of scripts and hope to get those out there. So I don't know. I feel like having him on here feels like, let's just get Mike White on here and have him bring some interesting character stuff in or something. And it just, I don't know.
Right.
I find that that doesn't work. And Trish, as the director, like, I felt like there was no clear vision with the film. It just felt all over the place. And I just never clicked with the direction, the writing, any of this stuff. I really felt like it was a mess.
Well, and I think, you brought up the closing credits, earlier. There are some nice pieces of the closing credits that give you sort of a montage of things like closing these, holes. But it was scattered, and part of it made me think there is a missing montage in this movie that we didn't get that would have been similar to when the girls go to see Aubrey in Pitch Perfect 2, and they have that montage of classics and they start doing all the camp games. But in this one, it was military because we had them doing the like tactical training. They're covered in mud, crawling under the ropes. They're climbing things. They're like being attacked by dogs. Like they're doing all these crazy, funny things. I think that seems like a missed opportunity. Did you get the feeling that there was a missing military montage in this movie?
Well, it was weird to have all that in the credits just suddenly pop up, because then they were also including stuff from the first two movies. So they were throwing stuff in. And it was all designed to look like John and Gail's documentary footage. That was the intention of what they were
that was the intention.
Showing us.
Right.
And so to that end, it was weird that they were going all the way back through the first two films. But at the end of a trilogy, that's what you get. We're going to show you stuff from all three and how much everybody loves each other. And we're really all happy as one big happy family. And so to that end, it felt weirdly blended in to include stuff that we never had seen before of this military stuff.
I thought that was very strange.
They did keep it tight. This was, right at about 90 minutes. And so to that end, they had room to breathe, to add more stuff to it. And to that end, I'm kind of glad they didn't. It's like, I was fine with it being tight.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So speaking of 90 minutes, as we're cruising that direction ourselves, I don't think, did you comment on the finale, the Fat Amy takes the boat sequence earlier? Do you feel like you got...
No, I mean, because you wanted to save the dad stuff and
you're right.
Whole
I
action
did.
sequence.
Let's talk about the dad
So we
stuff.
haven't really talked about that. It opens the film, it sets up this thing where then suddenly we flash to 3 weeks earlier and we get this whole James Bond opening, which I was like, okay, they're taking this in a crazy direction. At least it's something new. So at least I don't know where we're going to go or how they're going to get to this place. It piqued my curiosity. And then it goes, then by that point we learn that it's her dad, and he kidnaps the girls and takes them on his boat because he wants to get this 180 million from his daughter. Blah 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 blah. It was nonsense. But by that point, I wasn't expecting anything more out of the film. So it hits that point, and I'm just like, this is where we are. This is what this film is doing. The direction it's taking. And there it is. Toxic while Amy runs around taking down all of her dad's staff. And then blowing up the boat. I'm assuming she killed everybody except for her dad, who I think...
Yeah.
Well, I guess the military arrived, so they probably put the boat out and presumably saved people so that Amy's not just flat out killing all these people who are on the boat.
Well, I didn't feel like that, Andy, because she knocked out a bunch of guys in there that were unconscious when that boat blew. Like, I think she murdered probably 6 people.
And dad was probably the only one who made it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't get it. Lithgow, what is up with Lithgow and the Australian accent? And I just didn't get enough of the diabolical Lithgow treatment that I know he's capable of. This is another one of those performances where my first thought was, I wonder if he knows what movie he's in. Like, he just does a lot of movies, and I wonder if this one, if he thought it was something else.
My first question was, couldn't they find an Australian performer who could have done this instead of him, because his accent was rough. And I'm one who notoriously has a terrible time picking up bad accents, but it felt so fake the whole time, almost comically so. But then he was singing, and I'm like, okay, so did they pick him because he could sing? And I'm like, has John Lithgow sung in anything before? I don't know. So I don't know. It was a strange choice to go down this road. I don't know how we ended up there. And by that point, when stuff was happening in the film, my only question to my wife as we were watching is like, I thought this was all the night of the performance, but then they get back and the performance was the next night. So I was like, that was my thing, is like, I'm confused now in the timeline. But I just didn't care. By that point, I just didn't care.
Yep. I feel like the rest of the music, because it's a music movie, I like the snippets that we got are great, but I'll tell you, mostly the soundtrack is better than the movie in terms of the music, because we actually hear all the songs. And that's good. And, here's another thing. They did a promotional bit, the Bellas, and all of the bands in The Voice, the TV show The Voice, they did a cross-promotional thing where there is a music video where you can go listen to them doing Freedom 90, all of the voices intercut it's a very cool presentation of this song, and that performance is miles better than what we actually got on stage. It is just a better rendition. I think it's on the special edition of the soundtrack. It's just better. So, I mean, when you talk about that song is awesome. Like, objectively awesome. And when you look at what is possible with that song in terms of recreating something and giving it a new magic, I think the finale that we got in the movie is the lowest end of the bar, like the low bar. So real shame.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap things up, I had a little Aka quiz for you, Pete.
Oh no. Okay.
So I found a listing of all the times Aka is used as a prefix in the movies.
Okay.
And so I'm going to throw some out to you. And this probably is one that would make sense for our retake episode, which is a members bonus episode we do after our series, where members get to listen to us talk about the whole series kind of macroscopically, as I always say. But I thought it would be fun to just say, what are some uses of Aka from the movies? And actually, I take it
so
back.
You want me to tell you what they are?
Yeah, and it's actually just the first two movies. They released this page after or as the third film, the trailer had just come out. So it's between the first two movies. I'm going to say a few of them, and I want you to tell me which of the two first movies this was from.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You are such a disappointment.
That's the first movie?
No, that's the second movie. Green Bay Packers offensive tackle David Bakhtiari says this to teammate Clay Matthews after Matthews blanks during the country song round in an underground a cappella league riff-off.
I think I'm going to be mad at this because I hate Aka so much. All right, go ahead.
Aka huddle now.
Okay, that's Aubrey. It's when she's still in Aka alpha mode. I'm going to say that's the first movie.
Yes, that is the first movie. Aka awkward.
I think it's the first movie.
That is the first.
Is it?
Movie.
It's Fat Amy. It's Fat Amy, and she's
When Aubrey tells her BFF Chloe to get her head out of her ass because it's not a hat in front of the whole group.
So good. That's the better line. Yeah.
O.M. Aka G.
Oh my God. Was that the Legacy? What's her name? Haley Steinfeld.
It was.
Was that her auditioning in the house?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That is Emily. So that would be.
Emily Junk, right?
That's the second film. That is the second.
Yeah. Okay. Second film.
This one should be easy. Aka feeder saying bitches.
That is pitch perfect too.
When Becca attempts to Aka her way out of a confrontation with her enemies / crushes, and although she gets props for Aka-ing in a second language, this does nothing to help her cause with DOS sound machine.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
Listen up, Aka ballers.
Oh, is that the riff off?
Yes, it is
in 2.
It's in 1. It is in 1.
It's the one. So it's what's his name in the pool?
It's Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
Mintz-Plasse.
As they describe him here, the saddest audition coordinator there ever was.
Yes, right.
Okay, last one. Aka, excuse me? Aka, believe it.
Aka, believe it. Okay. So I think that was Oh man, was that the drive-by burritoing in the bus?
It was right around there. Yeah, it was when they realized they're out of gas, and Aubrey says, "Excuse me," to Amy, and Amy says,
"I can believe it."
Believe it.
I really don't like them in the movie, but talking about them to you makes me laugh. So that's got to be a good sign, a good Aka sign.
It is a very good Aka sign. Absolutely. No, there were some other, they make me laugh.
Like the Aka ones, like, I don't know. I think my favorite one isn't an Aka one. There were just some other fun a cappella puns that I like in the movie. We didn't talk really about the punnery in the movie that I just find myself laughing about from time to time.
There are a lot of them. So yeah, I thought it was a fun thing to kind of introduce into the films because I don't know, just Aka makes me laugh when they say them. So there it is.
Aka, excuse you.
All right. Well, we will be right back, but first, our credits.
When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go off, go off, go off, go off.
The next reel is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Milano, Oriel Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and the numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.
When you're up against the wall and you cannot fall, so go off, go off, go off, go off.
All right, Andy, time to talk about sequels.
Yeah. So at the time it came out, Trish Sie said it's above her pay grade. She has no idea. She doesn't make these decisions. But as far as she's concerned, she would see these movies go on and on and on until they start sucking. I think that's funny. I think whether it's these women in the next stage of life or it's a new group of women going through these things, I think there are endless ways to chart the course of the girls' lives and a woman's life. So that was Trish Sie. Now, there is actually a TV series that has been announced for Peacock. It was supposed to come out this year. I don't know what the status of it, but it was going to be called Pitch Perfect, Bumper in Berlin, with Adam Devine reprising his role as Bumper Allen. And Elizabeth Banks, again, returning as executive producer. And I guess that there are some episodes out. And I'm looking now. It looks like November 2022 is when we'll get the first 2 episodes of the show.
Wow. That's coming right up. What a timely release of this series on the Next Reel Film podcast.
Absolutely. It's got Adam Devine and Flu LeBorg both returning to be a part of it.
Awesome.
Are you down for following Bumper? Is that a direction that you were hoping to go?
No. But I do like him. It's unexpected, but I like him. And if they are able to sort of capture the guy from the Bumper from Pitch Perfect and not necessarily the Bumper from Pitch Perfect 2, I think I'd be more down with it. I think he has, as a character, more to learn and more to present. Like, I think it'll be great. And he's a hell of a performer. Like, I think the trebles with Bumper was really fun and funny. And so I'd like to see what he has. It'll be interesting to see if it's a cappella, because he went off and did his thing with John Mayer, which is notoriously non-a cappella. And so, it'll be interesting to see if he and Flu LeBorg in an a cappella group together now in Europe. That'll be an interesting thing to check out. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Very interesting. The only other 2 characters, can you guess who might be the only other 2 characters listed at this time as being a part of the TV series?
DJ Khaled.
No. I mean, and I'll say they have been in all of the films. It's 2 people who have been in the first 3 films and will also be in the TV show. The only 2 consistent characters across the whole thing.
Is it Stacy and Aubrey? They've been in all of them.
That would be funny, but no, it should come as no surprise, Pete. It is John and Gail. Yes, that's right.
Sigh. Deflating sigh. I'm less interested now.
They are somehow finding a way to continue. Now they're following Bumper in Europe. I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, that's where we are. And there has been, at this point, it was successful, but they really kind of wrote this film to feel like a conclusion, like we get a wrap up of all the characters. If it's a continuation, I suppose they could, but I just don't feel it's really necessary other than just, hey, let's make more money off of this thing. So that's where it sits.
How to do award season?
The film did still win 4 awards, and it had 6 other nominations. Surprisingly, it won Best Music Supervision for films budgeted over $25 million at the Guild of Music Supervisors Awards. Again, and last film had 60 songs credited. This one had 45, so a little step down. At the Hollywood Makeup Artist and Hairstylist Guild Awards, Best Contemporary Makeup for a Feature-Length Motion Picture, they won that award, and they were nominated for Best Contemporary Hairstyling for a Feature Motion Picture, but they lost that one to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Hairstyling, I'm trying to think of like the hairstyles that stand out in that film.
It seems more like head styling.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting thing to do because it's like, I guess, yeah, sure, there's some people with hair. I don't know. Weird choice there, but whatever.
Yeah.
Over at the Kids' Choice Awards, Pete, not the Teens' Choice, but this is the Kids' Choice Awards. So maybe this is why this film did well for itself. But yeah, at the Kids' Choice Awards, it did get some nominations. It was nominated for Favorite Movie by all those young'uns, but Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle won. It was also nominated for Favorite Movie Actress Anna Kendrick, but lost to Zendaya for 2 films, Spider-Man: Homecoming and The Greatest Showman. At the Reframe Awards, I'm not really sure what the Reframe Awards are, but it was nominated for Narrative and Animated Feature, and it won the Reframe Stamp Award. And the Teen Choice Awards, so a little older than the kids, still got some nominations. Anna Kendrick won the Choice Movie Actress for a Comedy. And then also, Haley Steinfeld was nominated for the same thing, but of course lost to Anna Kendrick. Same thing with Rebel Wilson. And it was also nominated for a Choice Movie, but lost to Love, Simon.
Oh.
That's it for the awards.
Love, Simon. Okay. Well, there's a whole point that we didn't actually talk about before we started all that rot, which was specifically DJ Khaled. Did you have a response? Are you a big DJ Khaled fan?
I don't know if I am or not. I like it's a name I recognize, but I don't know much about him. And so I thought, yeah, he's there as a person who is a real life person who's playing himself as this character, and it was fine. Like, I didn't really care much about it one way or the other. I don't know if I've ever heard a song from him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I now have, because there are some on the some of them that have been a cappella'd arranged or DJ Khaled over the course of the movies. And so like there was All I Do Is Win was one of the Das Sound Machine. It was part of one of the Das Sound Machine tracks, and that was from him in the second film. And so now he is in this film. And so I did not care for DJ Khaled, and I did not understand why he was the one who was picked to be a part of this. I don't know any of the backstory. I don't know why he signed on. It felt very strange, and I didn't feel like there was any sort of magnetism for the USO to want DJ Khaled there. I am so out of touch with like DJ Khaled that I don't know what he represents, but he did not represent anything for me. And I think I could say after his acting performance in that one scene in the hotel room, I am less of a fan now than I was before, if that's possible. I found it inconsequential.
It was, yeah, I don't know if I really got the sense of having him on board, because and maybe it's just my lack of understanding of what DJ Khaled does in the music industry, but the way that it's played here is he kind of seems like he is a performer, or maybe not a performer. I don't know. I get confused when
producer.
DJ is part of the name, but
yeah,
a producer, but also somebody who does like mixes and remixes other people's music. Like he seemed like maybe he's one of those people, and also somebody who's looking to find new artists and kind of promote them and take them under his wing and bring them up and stuff. So to that end, I was like, maybe he's, the behind the scenes, like he's the big name producer that the USO brought on to kind of be the one to shepherd the show and kind of put together a great show for the troops as it travels around. But to that end, I'm like, well, it never seems like he's producing anything. He just seems kind of like the guy in the background who's not doing anything, except sometimes playing piano. And so I don't know if that comes from, these movies where they take a real life person to play themselves and then create like an artificial version of that person. Like this isn't the real DJ Khaled. It's just the one that we get in the film.
In the Aka universe.
In this Aka universe. And so I don't know. To that end, I'm just like, okay, I don't really know what to take from this character, but it was an odd structure. That seemed partly also designed and written into it just so they could introduce the competition element of the story here.
Yeah. Well, we've got, so if you're a member, you could access the live stream and listen along and watch along as we record this thing, and nextreel.com/membership or members. What is it? Yeah, it's in there somewhere. You'll find it. And Brian has just posted, apparently they considered Pharrell, Kanye West, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, Missy Elliott. All of those are better choices for me than DJ Khaled. All of those, I think, would have been more interesting to me. There's no way they would get Dr. Dre now that he's over at Apple, but Jay-Z, Kanye, Pharrell would have been awesome.
Yeah, I guess for me, like I'm not really interested in any of them, so I don't know if I really find much interest. Like I don't know if I would have cared if it was Pharrell. Like to me, it's just it's not even created as an effective part of the story, so it would have had to be in a better script for me to even care who it was. That's why it's for me, it's like almost a non-issue because the script about it was flat.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Script was flat. All right, Andy, how'd it do at the box office?
For C's entry to the trilogy, she had $45 million to work with, a big bump, surely because of the huge success of the second film. That is $46.8 million in today's dollars. This movie opened December 22nd, 2017, during a busy holiday period opposite Downsizing, Father Figures, All the Money in the World, Molly's Game, and the limited early releases of The Post, Phantom Thread, and Hostiles. With all of that, not to mention the staying power of The Last Jedi and Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle, this movie managed to open in number 3. It didn't have the legs of the last film, though, falling out of the top 10 by the 5th week. But still, it did manage to earn $105 million domestically and $80.8 million internationally for a total gross of $193.2 million in today's dollars, and making it the second highest grossing musical comedy of all time. That gives it an adjusted profit per finished minute of $1.5 million, landing it in second place in the trilogy, but last place when you look at the profit to cost ratios. But still, who are we kidding? All of these films did well.
Well, I got a spinoff, TV spinoff. How weird.
Bumper in Berlin.
Well, Bumper in Berlin. All right. I'm done. I have no more nonsense to spew about this movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a film. In the immortal words of Harry Styles, the thing I like most about this movie is it feels like a movie.
Okay, noted.
I think isn't that what he said? My favorite thing about the movie is it feels like a movie.
Sounds like classic Harry Styles. Classic.
Well, we'll be right back for our ratings, but first, here's the trailer for next week's movie, kicking off our next series, the Before Trilogy. We're going to be talking about Before Sunrise.
All right, I have an admittedly insane idea, but if I don't ask you this, it's just going to haunt me the rest of my life. I have no idea what your situation is, but I feel like we have some kind of connection, right?
Yeah, me too.
Great. So listen, here's the deal. This is what we should do. You should get off the train with me here in Vienna and come check out the town. We just got into Vienna today, and we're looking for something fun to do. Sprechen Sie English?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Could you speak German for a change?
Now I'm going to call my best friend in Paris, who I'm supposed to have lunch with in 8 hours. Okay?
Okay.
Ring, ring. Pick up the phone.
Hello?
I don't think I'm going to be able to make it for lunch today. I'm sorry. I met a guy on the train, and I got off with him in Vienna. We're still there.
Are you crazy?
Probably. He has beautiful blue eyes, nice pink lips, frizzy hair. I love it. I like to feel his eyes on me when I look away. You couldn't possibly know why a night like this is so important to my life right now. But it is. Since we're never going to see each other again, I don't think we should sleep together.
Let's see each other again.
I don't want you to break our vow, just so you can get laid. Men are lucky we don't bite off their head after mating. Certain insects do that, like spiders and stuff. Mm-hmm. We at least let you live.
We didn't talk about the fact that I built this playlist in Apple Music and Spotify and Amazon Music, and we'll post links to it. If you're a subscriber to one of those services, I built a playlist of it. It's the Pitch Perfect Unarranged playlist, which is all of the original source tracks that have been arranged for a cappella. It doesn't include a bunch of like the score material or the other songs that were used that weren't a cappella. But if you want to hear, from Don't Stop the Music through Freedom 90, I have this playlist of right now 85 songs, 5 hours and 25 minutes of Pitch Perfect original tracks. And it's actually a pretty great playlist. Like there's it's fun to listen to. So
that's awesome.
Including every one of the individual riff off tracks. So
nice.
You can listen to those. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, Andy, that brings us to Letterboxd. This is a real problematic rating for me. Real problematic. I'm running headlong into my no half stars feelings. I am going to get over it. But I'm running into it. How'd you land on your Letterboxd review?
Well, like I said, I feel like despite kind of not liking this film and thinking that they made a big old mess of it, I still think at least they were trying something different with it. And it's hard for me to think that it's going out on a sour note when George Michael's ending things, because I really love that song and I love him, and just I don't have as much issues with their performance of it because I just like the song. But I think they were trying something new. It didn't feel like they just took the script of the first movie and just did it all over again, which is what the second one felt like. So the second film I gave 2 stars and no heart. I think I'm going to give this one also 2 stars and no heart, but in my mind, I just know that it's just a hair better. Like this would be 2.01 if I could add that on there.
2.01. That's going too far on your fractions of a star thing. That's too far. I am a 2-star, but I am also a heart because, Andy, in the end, it's a movie I don't like, but the second movie was a 3-star and a heart, and the third one's a 2-star and a heart. It is a worse movie to me than the second one, but it is still an a cappella movie, and I'm in the bag for a cappella. So
yeah,
there you go. 2 stars and a heart.
All right. Remember, everybody, visit thenextreel.com/letterbox. You can get your Patron or Pro membership. It saves you 20% over there. Use the discount code NEXTREEL or go to thenextreel.com/letterbox. It works for renewals as well. And hey, you know what? If you would like to listen to these episodes without ads, you can consider a membership with The Next Reel. Go to thenextreel.com/membership. And you don't have to listen to the ads. You get the episodes before everybody else, and you get tons of member bonus episodes. It is a great support of the show. We certainly appreciate it, and we try to give our members all sorts of wonderful stuff. And hopefully, it's something you might consider. So we would certainly appreciate it. So what did you think about Pitch Perfect 3? We would love to know. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Okay. What do you have?
I've got a 2-star by Ian, who says, they'd be like, yeah, let's just make another movie and grab the money. Who cares about the writing nowadays anyway, right? Yeah. Right in line with you there, Ian.
Yeah. I have a couple. One is from Kirsty, is a 2-star, says, I'm not joking when I say I could physically feel the quality of this movie decreasing every time a man was on screen. I don't know. I don't know how true that is, but it's on point. And the second one is from M with a 3-star that says, to all of our conversation earlier, imagine watching this movie and thinking Becca Mitchell is straight. LOL. Thanks, Letterboxd. It is hard to believe we've been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
Oh, you're telling me. Producing this show week after week is so much fun, but it does require a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you, and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
The Originals page at thenextreel.com/originals links to the source material from all of our adapted film discussions. Purchasing through our links support the show at no extra cost to you.
In Season 12, the focus was big franchises and series. We covered both Paddington films, adapted from the beloved children's book character created by Michael Bond.
Oh, I love those films so much.
Hugh Grant is perfect.
For our Pitch Perfect series, the first film was adapted from Mickey Rapkin's nonfiction book about collegiate a cappella competitions.
It's like a short story of my life, literally. I lived college a cappella.
Sing it, brother.
I lived college a cappella.
I didn't mean literally.
You know who you're talking to, right? The Twilight Saga dominated the season with 5 films adapted from Stephenie Meyer's vampire romance novels, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and the 2 Breaking Dawn parts.
Dominated with awkward romance and nonsense logic is more like it.
That too.
Another Thin Man brought us back to Dashiell Hammett's only Thin Man sequel based on other Hammett material, The Farewell Murder, that wasn't just based on the characters from the first film.
We talked about Trainspotting and its sequel, T2 Trainspotting, adapted from Irvine Welsh's novels.
I hate the sequel's name.
I do too.
And the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy adapted from J.R.R. Tolkien's epic fantasy series.
Love these.
Extended editions all the way, baby.
Plus, all the Mission Impossible films based on the 1960s TV series.
And we've still got at least one more to go.
Members got to hear us chat about The Hustler and The Color of Money, adapted from Walter Tevis's books.
Get all of these books and more at our Originals page, thenextreel.com/originals.
Start your next read from the movies we've covered at thenextreel.com/originals.